Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Doreen Apia. I work with AfLIA. You are all welcome to today's webinar. On the topic for today's webinar is library leadership and management, building today's African public and community library leaders for tomorrow. We all know that public library is a place for everyone from birth to death, regardless of your age, gender, or your race. And as a result, public librarians must be abreast with time. They must have skills to be able to develop and drive innovative activities or innovative programs in their libraries. As user information needs and consumption patterns keep changing, we as public librarians must also change our ways of doing things. And that is one of the reasons why we are here today to listen to two resource persons. Today we have two resource persons, but before I introduce them, I will encourage all participants to listen attentively so that you can give us feedback and ask questions. During the presentation, if you have any question to ask, please go to the bottom of your page. You will see the question and answer button there. Click on it and type in your questions. The resource persons will answer you in due course. The purpose for today's seminar or today's webinar is to deepen your understanding about the concept of the role of modern libraries in a community, explore ways which can help libraries reduce poverty through partnership with makers and local government to Finland. She has over 30 years work experience in library management, both in the university library and the public libraries. She is also a member of the EFlat Public Library Section Standing Committee. She has gone for 2 terms and a former vice president of Finnish Library Association board. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Pekko Lindbeck. The second resource person is Rita Nybeck. She is the development manager of Vantaa City Library, one of the biggest libraries in Finland. She is responsible for library strategy, economics, quality politics, assessment, and international projects, including a 10-year project in Namibia, Africa. So as you can see, she has experience in Africa as well. She has been training librarians in library strategy and management in Finland and abroad. So we will first of all listen to Pekko Lindbeck, and afterwards, we will listen to Rita Nybeck. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, the screen is already sharing. It's from Pekko. So please pay attention to the presentations. And I wish to also inform you that this webinar will be the last webinar for our 2019, but then we'll give you more in 2020. So let's pay attention to this one, and then we can ask questions later on. Thank you. So Pekko, please, it's your time.
Okay, now we are ready.
So hello everyone. As you can see, we are in the library in Tampere, and I'm sorry about these little technical problems in the beginning. So here you can see Tampere in the northern side of the world, and you are there in Africa. Just to sign you where we are now. So here are my topics today. As you can see, we have a lot of things here, but a limited time. So I try to be quick and tell you a little bit about everything here. So library is a very important actor in a community. And nowadays it's not just a place where you can borrow books, but it's an active institution with many wide functions. And we have to strengthen this image of library. Not just the storage of old. And as you can see here in the picture, there are some our customers, young boys, playing in our playroom, and that is also an important part of libraries' work today. Something about Finnish libraries. Libraries provide all Finnish with equal access to information and culture. The Minister of Education and Culture is responsible for the national library policy in Finland. And municipalities have responsible for arranging the public library services. Public library services are financed by the municipalities. They give about half of the funding, and the rest comes, about the half, 50% comes from the states. And we have a permanent funding for libraries, so we don't have to worry, do we get money or not? Of course, there are different kind of municipalities. Some have a bit more money than others, but like in my city, Tampere, we have a good funding for libraries. Here is some figures about Finnish libraries. As you can see, we are a really small country. We have 5.5 million inhabitants in Finland, and we have about 900 libraries altogether, public libraries. At the moment, reading is very popular and hot in Finland, and we have national programs going on reading in Finland, and that's really a big thing for us, because everybody is using only their mobile devices, and we try to do reading very popular and hot thing also for young people. Our loan figures are going up all the time. So in that case also, books are doing well in Finland. And we also do lots of events. And with events, we strengthen the democracy and dialogue with citizens. About library strategy. Many countries have a national strategy for public libraries, and in Finland too. The National Library Strategy is just under renewing. We have the first one from 2016, and the next one, the new one, will be next year. National Strategy is a toolkit for libraries. Together with the National Library Law, the Act, it guides libraries what to do. Here you can see some pages of our old library strategy, Library for Citizens. We offer public services, we offer space, and we offer substance. Libraries in Finland have a strong status in the society. They have been a bottom in building civilization, reading culture, and welfare society. And Finland also has many wars in the history, and when we started to build our society, our civilization, libraries and schools were a big thing in that building. Values for public libraries are also defined in our strategy, and you can see them here: equality, responsibility, sense of community, courage, and freedom of speech. And I like this courage, because we have to be very brave in our libraries to do things, to promote things we believe in. We also have this Library Act in Finland. The first act was from 1928, and the there has been several reformations, and the newest one is from 2017. And you can see the link here, so you can check it's in English, what is in our library law. Here are the main tasks for public libraries in the law. We have to provide access to materials, information, and cultural content. We have to maintain versatile and up-to-date collections. You cannot have only old books in your library according to law. And there are also other things which you can see here. I'm not going to read them because the time is limited, but also this 6th paragraph, the promoting social and cultural dialogue, is really important to us. And I also want to remind you about the EFlat strategy, which just has been launched in Athens this summer in EFLA conference. And if you don't have your own strategy in your library, so please check this EFLA strategy, because it really gives you a toolkit for your own library to do things. Libraries are hubs of active citizenship. At the 80s, we used to have a lot of books also in our libraries, and there wasn't so much cooperation with customers and so on. But in last 20 or 25 years, all the libraries has changed. And there has been a big change in our public libraries. And we call now that we have a new library altogether. Library is a safe place. You have to emphasize that in your community, because that's very important to tell the decision makers that there is one safe place in our community, and that's a library. And reading and literature, that's a key to understanding things and civilization. Reading is not just books, but if you can read, you can do a lot of things in your life. So that's why we are celebrating reading in Finland too at the moment. That's the first step. But literacy is not just only books. It's also media reading. You have to be critical what you find in the internet and so on. And libraries are really important actors in this thing. Well, how libraries can prevent poverty? You and us, we have a lot of things in our libraries which we can use. We have free internet access. We have educated staff. As I told you, we can also help in critical media literacy and to find what is safe and what is true in internet, to avoid fake news and so on. You can help to start your own business. You can help students and school children with their homework. You can give health information. You can help in job seeking. And as I told, libraries are a safe space to study, learn, and get information. And all these things help people maybe to get out of the poverty and do better things in their lives. Libraries are centers of societal influence. Libraries are places for equality. Libraries promote democracy. These are things which we tell all the time in Finland also, because library is free, it's open to everyone, and there aren't no borders who can come to library. So in that case. Well, what do you have to do with decision makers and politicians? My first advice is that don't complain. if you whine about lack of money, lack of staff, lack of books, everything, you don't get good results. That's what I've learned in my long career. When I was a young librarian, I used to whine all the time that we should have more money, we should have more this and this. And I had a really wise boss at the time, because he told me that don't complain all the time. And that was really good advice, because you have to do positive things, and you have to tell about your library, how good we are, how much have we done, and convince them with positive cases what your library is doing. Make your library visible with concrete examples. Convince them, and be active in your community, and invite them to your library. That's sometimes not so easy, but try it at least. Take goals to your library from your city strategy. If your city has a strategy, you can use it and take some things from there to your own library. Use social media. Bring your library to discussions in the society. If your city has a Facebook page or Instagram or whatever, go there and be there and tell stories about your library. Go to discussions. Go out of the library. Use pop-up libraries. Go to marketplaces, go to shopping centers with little pop-up library. It doesn't have to be very you don't have to have very much things. You just go there and market your library services. And arrange events in your library which get attention. And be surprising, be fun. Don't be so official or serious. We librarians sometimes are a bit shy or shabby. Try to break that shabby image of librarians. Have fun, and arrange events in your library which are unexpected, like cloth swapping, book sale, political discussions, karaoke, food market, free coffee, so on. The list is endless. You can do whatever you like in your library to attend positive attention to your library. And make positive scandals. Here is one example from New Zealand. They took photos of themselves as, I don't know if you know this, Keep Up Kardashians, the Kardashian family. They are very famous, and they made Kardashians from themselves as librarians, keeping up with the librarians. And when they published this in Facebook, the next morning, they were on the local newspaper's front page. And you can imagine the positive attention which they got with this campaign. So be funny. And you cannot work alone. The only way to make your library success is to network. Do cooperation nationally and internationally if it's possible. Cooperate with colleagues, library associations, education institutions, and so on, and learn from others. We don't know everything. We have to learn from our colleagues. And again, make noise of your library and yourself with the positive accent. Here is some references. And then some words about the future librarians. What new skills are needed in the future? In libraries, we have to use social media, chat, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. be there and go out in the social media from your library, because people are there at the moment. And social media platforms should be seen as part of customer services. In my library, I tell my staff that sitting behind the desk, that's okay, but being active in network is as important customer service as sitting in the library. And you have to cooperate also in social media to be, you have to be seen there as a library. Building a customer-oriented working culture. That means that we have to discuss with our customers. We have to we have been like gatekeepers. We have been professionals in a quite traditional way. And now we are like service design librarians. We have to face customers in a different way. And the communication is starting point to all this. The communication is really important. How you communicate with in your own working place, in your own library, with your staff. So that's the way you communicate with your customers too. To make digital competence for the future librarian, we have built a digital driving license in our library. And that is really important at the moment. Not in Finland, all librarians can do digital skills, and we discussed a lot about this. So we have built this digital driving license, and here you can see some part of this is how it looks like. This is in Finnish, but anyway. And after that, people are doing this digital driving license. They can use e-materials and e-services which are needed in work. They can use a range of digital devices and give digital instruction to customers. And they can also design and produce a variety of multimedia content. I think this last slide summarizes all this, which is the new librarian. Think like a designer, update your expertise, be a library ambassador, learn to use digital services, recommend and promote, and co-create with customers. And that was all for me. Thank you so much. You can see my social media information here, so you can contact me any way you like. And now I give the speak to Rita.
Okay. Hello, the next person you are going to listen to is Naibek. So please pay attention. I would like to remind you or inform you that we will share the materials with all attendees. So don't worry. And then we also load the video on our AfLIA YouTube channel. So you can also look for that one and play it for further information. Thank you. So Naibek, you have the...
Yes. Hello, everybody. So I'm Rita, and I also am here in Tampere with Pirkko. And now I'm going to talk about how to develop library services and how to inform about them, and also about how to build innovative programs with limited resources. First of all, I would like to share a little bit background of what I'm talking about, because I basically have lessons learned from the Vantaa Vintu project that was running from 2002 to 2014. So 12 years of municipal cooperation with 2 cities. And I was part of this project for 8 years and visited many times in Namibia. So this was a part of a North-South program financed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Finland and coordinated by the local and regional government Finland. And the whole aim of this program was to enhance the governance and to improve municipal services. And there were also other components, not only library, there was adult education center, there was youth services, some local well, anyway, there were lots of museum cooperation and so on, but maybe the library project was one of the most successful in this cooperation. And as a result of this cooperation, a community library is now functioning in Greenville Matongo, which is an informal settlement in Windhoek, which is the capital of Namibia. And one of the main tasks of this cooperation was to bring free services of information society to the grassroots level and bridge the digital divide among the residents of Windhoek. And over the years, this Greenville Matongo Library became the model library in Namibia, and I was happy to witness this development of this library, which was a very important place in that community. And also they started to spread this model to other parts in Namibia, and now there are many functioning project like this. And after this project was over, there is still a good working library in Greenville Matongo. So this as a project was very successful in this way because it was really a cooperation with 2 municipalities, and they wanted to make the structures of the city so that it can function after the project came to an end. And this is a picture of Greenville Matongo Community Center. So there are children, there were lots of children always. It wasn't a big place, but it was crowded, and every time you visited there, you could see many children, maybe not so many adults and grown-ups. And that is one thing I want to talk about, so that what is the idea of the library. So it's not only for students, which I witnessed in Namibia and also maybe in Tanzania, that many children and young people came to the library to study, but there were not so many grown-ups which were spending time there. So this is maybe one observation that I had, that library is about human needs. So it's not just a collection of books or museum or place to study. It can be a place to think, and even to fulfill our dreams and to collaborate with other people. So like Pirkko said before, you have to find out what the community needs, engage the community. And I think that was one of the reasons why Greenville Matongo Library in Windhoek was and it has been so successful, because from the start, they started to engage in the community with the development of the library. So in the beginning, even before they started building the house, they had meetings with the local people and people who had influence in that community. And they asked people what would they like to have in their library. So the starting point was very good in this way, that there was the whole community was involved in that process. And like the same thing is that you have to start from the grassroots level and cooperate with the community, ask what they want. Of course, you can make some surveys, but you can talk and you can discuss with people and invite them to share the ideas, to discuss their needs. And it can happen that people don't have a clear picture of what they want from the library. They can say that, well, there are books and you can go there to read books and magazines, but maybe they don't have the imagination about what you could do at the library. So I think in that way, librarians are in an important role to also to tell the people that library can be much more than just a collection of books. And like it was also said in former, like Pirkko said, you have to invite local authorities to the library, because you can't do anything alone, and you have to have the support from the local community. And also there is much overlap, I think, in my speech, because Pirkko talked about library strategy. Of course, it is needed. But you can start from just to think what you wish to achieve. So, of course, there are big and important strategies that your city has or the state has, but you can also think what you want. For example, in Vantaa City Library, where I work, we have this strategy, advancing multiliteracy skills of the people of the community. So every time when somebody asks, what is your aim? What do you want to achieve with your library? You can say this one sentence, advancing multiliteracy skills of the people of the community. So it tells a story of what we want to do. And for us, of course, it is an ability to use critically various media platforms. It means pedagogical activities. We do a lot of cooperation with the local schools, as I think every public library in Finland, because we don't have so many school libraries. So the public libraries offer their services also to schools and early education centers and so on. And we teach information skills nowadays, more and more book talk and storytelling, because they are very important. We have lots of immigrants also in Finland coming from other countries, so teach them to tell the story to the children when they go to bed. It's very important, because then when you start this reading from the early age, even from the baby age, the results are better than when you get used to reading to children. And then just being there for the customers. So when a customer comes to library, you can say, how can I help? And people always say that, can I use the word customer when we talk about people who come to the library, patrons, because they think that customer is somebody who comes to a shop, but why not? They are customers, we want to serve them as well as possible. And you have to highlight again the fact that you have to strengthen the administration by building partnerships with government funding organizations and non-governmental organizations, and also with universities. For example, you can have trainees from the university to a public library. So then there are usually young people who have lots of skills, for example, technical skills, and they can help. And then in some libraries, the smooth operation of internet can be a problem, the consistency. So that's why always you need help. So these technical challenges are always there, even we have them. We have a quite advanced technical systems, but still we have some problems with the technical things, and that's why we need the help of the local IT department. And that's what I saw in Vantaa Vintu program, that when there was a good connection and a good relationship with the IT department of the city, it was easier to solve the problems together when they knew that the library really needs these devices, and they need these devices to work properly, for example, internet, because if you want to have a quality service, you need a working internet, because people come to the library more and more to use these devices. And of course, you can train the staff to have these courses like we did in Vantaa Vintu project. So there were people coming from Finland, for example, and they taught the local young people, the trainees from the library, to teach other people, so to keep the courses and to train local people so that they could train the other people and so on. So you don't always need a skilled professional. You can teach people to do at least something and help with these IT things. So in that Vantaa Vintu project, this was a very important thing, and I think that these courses are still running there. And of course, you need you have to emphasize the importance of the library everywhere. So if you, like Pirkko said, if you teach people to read and if you highlight the importance of the reading, it is always one possibility to make life a little bit better. And in promotion, you need to have awareness campaigns. For example, in the radio, we used that a lot in Vantaa Vintu project and various events at the library. You can have promotion material, rulers, bookmarks, pens, key rings, if you can make them. And they don't have to be so fancy. You can do always something. And then social media, you need that. I think it was clear from Pirkko's presentation. Then one thing is that you could need readable signs so that the library is inviting, and a bookstore-like layout. So to put materials and items so that people can see them, but don't put old and worn out books out there, don't look very nice. And then you can make use of the windows. If you have windows, you can make exhibitions, for example, from local arts and crafts and so on. So make library an inviting place. And then one important thing, of course, is to customer service. So customer comes first. People come to the library for a reason. The customer is always our first priority. They want to be heard, understood, and cared for. So people need a feeling of being in charge to have power. And if you succeed in these to give the people this feeling, then library can be a home away from home. You can call it a third place. And then people can have all these civic discussions, debates, and so on at the library. So they feel that the library is like a place for them. It's not a place where you just sit and you have to be quiet, and there are also rules and regulations what is forbidden. But on the just the opposite. Just to remind you that we are a service profession, and bad customer service can lose you more than one customer, but good customer service make advocates for the library. So word goes from mouth to mouth that you go there, there is a nice atmosphere and a nice staff, and you feel welcome there. Then you have more customers also coming to the library. And then how to develop innovative programs with limited resources. Well, it's always a problem because, like Pirkko said, you can always say that we don't have resources and we could do this and this, but this is not a good way to start. You can think what you can do with these resources that you have. Invite people from the community to share ideas and reach out to visitors, engage user-generated content. Don't make it too complicated. And make use of library as a safe place. It is important. And ask users always what they want and need, and try to fulfill their dreams, at least in some ways. And analyze the behavior of the customers and observe what they are doing in the space. And like I said, it's always nice to be friendly, be positive, and greet the customers when they come to your library. And use common terms. Don't make it a too complicated place. And of course, make your vision accessible to everyone again and again, your strategy. What do you want to achieve? And then you can always have these small changes which can have a positive impact. Here is a picture of in the courtyard of Greenwell Matongo Library. And there was not enough space because the library building, before they made a bigger children's department, was very crowded. There could be 150 people at the same time after the school day was ending, and they had to send the children outside to play, but because there were nothing to do in the playground, they fetched big car wheels and they painted the car wheels, and now children can play like they are like you can go to the car wheels. They are like how do you say, climb to these wheels and do all the things that children do. And then they fetched also sand to the courtyard, so now they can play football. So it's not so hard. The ground is not so hard, and so these little things that make the atmosphere nicer, and the children can see that the library is doing something for them. And then you can have workshops, creative problem solving. So always ask people and ask local people, let's talk, what do you want to do? And then weed out material. So of course, when you don't have so many books, you want to keep them all, but like I said, it's not good to have very worn out and old and not so nice looking books there available, because it doesn't give a good impression. And then you can have training classes for staff and the customers. You can have local small entrepreneurs, invite them. And you can even record your own story and share it with the community. You can have campaigns about health and nutritious food, reading and spelling competitions, reading clubs for teenagers also, not only for children. You can even have a birthday party at the library and exhibitions of local arts and crafts, and just invite people to design the interior. For example, if you want to paint something, you can ask if the people can, or children can come to paint, for example, one wall or something. It could be a nice result. And just to remind you that library is not a collection of books, it's our future. It's a space to create, to think, to collaborate. It's a place where people make choices about what is important and what matters, about what we keep and what can disappear. You can solve these problems together with the customers, and it's important that citizens make those choices, because then they feel library, that they are at home there. This is a picture of our mobile library. In Vantaa, we have 2 cars. They are going to remote places. So always to have a mobile library is a good place to reach out for people who cannot come to the library if the library is too far away. Well, that was my part. Thank you for your attention.
Just said that library is not a collection of books, but our future. This is very important in the life of every public librarian. It's something we must all do, we must all understand. I would like to recapture a few things that they both said. They said that we must not neglect the social media. We must also use celebrities to raise awareness. Example of using the Kardashians, which really helped to have more customers or clients in your library. Says a customer is always the first priority. They need to be in charge because human beings like to be in charge. Bad customer service can ruin you. So be careful how you treat your clients when they come in. I also heard them saying that you can use little things to promote your libraries. You can go to the market square, to the bookshops, little book markets and other things here and there will help to promote your library. Thank you very much, Perko. Thank you very much, Naibek. We are so grateful for this impactful presentation. And there are several questions here. I don't know how we can tackle all of them, but there are a few that maybe I have jotted down and I would like us to answer. But before then, I would like to say a big thank you to our Facebook viewers, those of you who are viewing us from Facebook and listening to us. Thank you very much for joining in. All our participants. At the moment, we have 121 participants live listening to your presentations, and I think it is a very good way of ending the year on our webinar sessions. The first question is, it said, I would like to know about the latest library software in managing collection. That was the first question. I don't know if you would like to answer it first or we should just continue. I should ask several questions, then you answer them. How do you want it?
That was about library software?
Yes. Okay. There's a question on how can I be a leader and effective librarian in my community library that knows less about library and its functions. And I think that one goes to Perko. How can I be an effective leader and also be an effective librarian in a community library that knows less or nothing about library and its functions?
Well, I think you have to do these things that we were telling here in our presentations. if I understand that this who is questioning this don't have so much resources to do things. Am I right? So
Yeah.
yes. So there is a lot of things that you can do without money, as we told. You can just go outside of the library to invite people to your library, try to invite decision makers to your library and convince them that this work, what you do, is really important in your society and in your community. This doesn't need money. And then I would suggest you to go to social media, because that is the really good place to influence people and tell what your library is doing. Nobody knows that if you don't tell that and go out to tell and go to social media to tell about your library.
Okay, thank you. The second question is, how do you emphasize that the library is a safe place if your country does not prioritize reading and library? There's another question I would like to add. Then how can you organize events to attract decision makers without funds? And the third one I can add is, how do we make our university library more useful without finance or with lack of money, funds?
Well, of course, always you need some resources and you need some money. There, you can't have a quality service, high quality service without resources. And I think the key to this is also this, that you need to have a cooperation, because of course you can do many things without money, but the basic things you need some resources. And about this, how can you invite decision makers there, and if they don't understand the meaning of the library, it's always a challenge, and there is no one way to do it. But I think little by little, with all these things that Pirkko also mentioned, to make people understand that library matters. And when you get even one or two persons to like they are convinced that this is the case, then they can tell it to others. But it's not easy, because even for us it's not easy. In Finland, the library is very appreciated, but still we struggle with this quite same challenges, not in the same level, but we have also these challenges. We have, of course, public financing is strict, and we also have to fight for the resources, but we try to make it in a positive way, that we tell what are the good things that library can achieve. And it's a big and long process, but you just have to believe in yourself. I think this is the key.
All right, thank you.
The
questions are many, so maybe we can cut it short. There are some questions from Facebook. One of them is, there are multiple applications available where almost books are freely available. So what's your opinion on this? I think this is playing a role as public library in some manner. What is your views on such applications? The second one is, since it's an era of digital library and lots of information available on the internet, what is your strategy for public libraries here or in there?
Okay, I will answer the first one about books available in internet. Well, that's not a problem in Finland, because we are a really small country and we have a very specific language. So we don't have free books online. So of course there are people who read English books, but we have to buy, we also have e-books in our libraries, and we have to buy licensed e-books, so we pay about these e-books. And about only 10% of all our material is now on e-books, and they are increasing all the time. But people still come to library, and as I told you, this in Finland, and I think in Europe too, this is not a problem, because there aren't so many free applications. There are like Amazon, you can buy books very cheap, and people use these, of course, but they still come to library, and in that case, that's not a problem in Europe, I think, at the moment.
Okay. There's another question here. That one, the person specifically said it should go to Peko. She said, how do one infuse this strategy in a school library? For all that you said, how should they infuse it in the school library?
The strategy, how to use a strategy in school library.
In the school library, yes.
Well, you can, if you have I think the school library can be quite small. So as Rita told, you can do just do some topics. What do you want to achieve, like next year? What are our steps? You don't have to have a fine strategy. You can have some steps. We want to have more customers. We want to promote reading, and so on. Just do a list. What do you want to achieve, like next year? And that's your strategy. It doesn't have to be very fine. And then also measure the things that you do. If you have a goal to have more readers and more visitors to your school library, then you can measure these also and convince to decision makers or schoolmaster or something that I really got this, I got more visitors because I did this and this. So the strategy doesn't have to be so fine. It can be some steps to go forward and plan what do you want to achieve in your library. And everything doesn't have to be very expensive. You can do a lot of things free also. Take the students with you, take the pupils to do things with you.
All right, thank you very much. There's another question from Facebook, and it says, how do you measure if library users are pleased with your services? And the second one goes like, how do you determine the programs to offer in the library? Do you seek users' advice or you do a trial and error?
Well, so the first one, how do we know that if people
are pleased? How do you measure if library users are pleased with your services?
Well, you can always ask them. You can make some small surveys, or then after when they leave the library, you can ask about the way they feel. We have some devices for that reason. We have some small tablets that a few questions that were you happy about the visit? How did you feel? Were you treated well? Did we get your trust? And so on. You can make just a small survey, not every day, but for example, for 1 week, you can ask every day the people who come to the library, how do they feel? And at the same time, you can ask them, what do they wish? What is not good at the library? And then you collect the information. So basically you can do it very, very in a simple way, that you don't have to have many complicated.
All right, I think that one also answers there's follow-up questions, which says that, how do you determine the programs to offer in the library? Once you do the survey, I'm sure they can also tell you that we want you to organize this program, have this event on other things for us. That's in a way having your user needs assessment to know what they really want you to do for them. Okay, more questions, but I think our time is up. However, I would like to remind our attendees that we will share the materials with them, and then the recording will also be available on the AfLIA YouTube channel that they can also go and listen to. I believe all the questions that you have asked, the answers are in the presentations, because the presentations are in depth, and then we can, okay, I think we can ask a few more questions. So maybe let's continue. I don't have to drop the line now.
I just say that you can also contact us if you have something on your mind.
Yes.
Okay. But there are a few more questions I've been prompted to. Maybe I can ask more. So there's another question. How could I help people from interior who are not aware with library? No, this one is no. Okay, let me do this. Sorry. Advise me on how to publicize multicultural or multilingual society. How do I go about promotion materials in a multilingual or multicultural society to promote my library?
Yeah, that's a challenge, but of course I know for example, from the experience from Namibia was that there were not so many books available in different languages because it's oral tradition. And one way, for example, for children is to have storytelling hours in different languages. If you have the possibility to ask somebody who speaks a certain language, for example, to have a book talk or storytelling with oral stories, it doesn't have to be a book. You can also tell stories like telling them. And the library can be a good place for that also. But to promote multilingual, it is a challenge. It's a challenge for us too, because at the same time you should have enough material in that language. But I know that for in your countries it can be a problem. But you can always do something to start from the little children and try from there, because I think it's the easiest way.
And also maybe you can arrange some kind of workshop
Yes.
with parents and with children and parents, and maybe children would like to draw things and then make their own stories about the things they are drawing and things like that.
Okay, there are more questions. The first question is how do I promote library services to rural dwellers? And the follow-up question is how can I raise revenue from the library services in a poor community? And now I'd like to add one more, which is from someone at the academic library. He wants to know if the issues you have addressed could be used in academic libraries as well. It looks like more of the issues are geared towards public libraries, but you'd like to know if these strategies can be used in academic libraries as well.
Okay, I will answer first the last one, the academic library question, okay. Because I think, yes, these things can also be done in academic libraries. Academic libraries might be a bit more professional and maybe a bit more serious, but like I told you, these things, these events like night in the library, like, you know, night in museum, you have a night in a library, and you can also have cloth swapping or food market also in academic library. And you can invite students to plan with yourself what do we do and how do you like to promote our library. So it doesn't have to be so official. Let your imagination flow and do things that you, I encourage you to do things that you have never imagined that this could happen in my library. I've seen in many libraries also, like in Russia, in academic libraries, they did things that weren't so traditionally born to academic libraries, but when they did these things, the students went crazy and they were so happy and so on. Invite students to workshop and discuss with them, how do you promote our library, and feel to make the students feel that this is our library and you don't have to have money for this. And sorry, what was the first question?
The first question was, how do I promote library services to rural dwellers, people in the rural areas? How do we promote library services to them?
Well, there was this picture of the mobile library. If you can have some kind of vehicle, some kind of car that you can bring some books or tell about libraries, that's always one possibility. If you can only have an access to a car, it doesn't have to be a bus or a big truck. It can also be a smaller vehicle. That is the way that we do it. Although our library net is quite good in Finland, we still have some remote places. And of course, many people have phones nowadays. There can be library promotion in the like if you have it in Facebook or in some other social media, you can always do it through this. So this is one way at least to promote library to people who can't always have access to library services.
All right. Thank you. We are still on it. There's a question here that says that apart from the library, what other ideas can be developed by librarians to create staff employment? Apart from library, what other ideas can be developed by or as librarians to create self-employment?
In Vanta Windhoek program, one component was also there were courses and they trained these local small entrepreneurs. So this is one also you can ask people who have a small business, you can ask them to the library and teach some information skills to them also, how to promote their service and how to develop their businesses. This was one quite successful in that particular program, but I don't know how it in the end how it helped, but at least there was some sense of community with these people who were working quite alone. So library can also offer this kind of services to local small entrepreneurs and this kind of advance this self-employment.
All right. There's another question here that says that in your presentation, you did not make mention of strategy for disabled. How do you acquire books for the blind or the people who are living with challenges, physically challenged people? An example was those who have problems with their eyesight. So how do we acquire books for such people?
Well, in Finland, we have a central library for people who have difficulties on reading, and that's called AfLIA library. It used to called Library for Blind People. So we get material from there, and at this moment, all Finnish libraries advise, we teach our customers how to use this AfLIA library mostly online, because we also distribute CDs, what's it called, hearing books for them, but this is decreasing. We try to advise people to do things online with this AfLIA library. So we have services for these people, yes. And physically in our libraries, we try to get devices which are specially mentioned for people with like bad eyesight also. So we have a special equipment in our libraries for this kind of people. So we serve a lot.
Yes, and then we also have, we make renovations and new premises. We try to make them available for people who come with the wheelchairs or something. So this is something very important nowadays. So if we have renovations, we try to look at the premises also.
Thank you. There are two questions I would like to ask more. One is, how does pop-up libraries work? And the second question is there a step-by-step approach or strategy for setting up a rural library for the community with plans on how to approach stakeholders and sponsorship? Is there a step-by-step strategy on doing that? And then the other question was, how does pop-up libraries work?
Okay, I will answer this pop-up library. Well,
Okay.
in Tampere, we have 2 persons who take care of this pop-up library, and we market them. We market this pop-up library. Well, we don't actually have to market it because it's very popular, and we are asked to different kind of events and to universities, to many places, and there are 2 people. They just grab some books. They have a computer, so they can also loan books, and then they can do library cards there, and they give suggestions of, well, it depends what is this event where they are going. So they collect a certain collection of books just for that occasion where they are going. and they have well, sometimes they use a taxi or a car if they have a car, and they are doing this, and they just put it, well, it's a pop-up thing, you know, that they just book a bookshelf, book some kind of box with books and a computer. That's it. And that also doesn't have to have a lot of money. It's very simple.
Yes, and you can do that even with the bicycle, because
yes.
For example, I think in Tanzania there is one librarian who goes to among the people with the bicycle and tells about library. He's a library manager. You can do very simple things. But about this other thing, that is there a step-by-step
strategy of setting up a rural library?
Of course, it depends on the situation. There, I think it can't be applied to every place the same way, because this experience that I had was a cooperation with 2 cities, and it was run by a foreign affairs minister. So it was in a very, the strategy was this between 2 states, and then you got the backup to the municipal players, and then it was of course easier to start the planning. But I think the first thing is to get the community to understand, the community leaders to understand the importance of the building the place, and start from there, because this is start from the grassroots level. I think this is the only advice I can give in this point, because I think every situation is different. But to make some kind of movement that we need this library, and then to talk to the people who are in charge and start from there. But yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been an interesting time. But regarding the acquisition of materials for those with challenges, we will suggest that interested libraries can contact the South African Library for the Blind and partner with them, because they have a whole library there in South Africa where they deal solely with materials for those with eye problems. Thank you so much, Peko. Thank you so much, Naibek. We are so grateful.
Really pleasure.
Yes, it was really interesting.
And by the way, your EFLA conference was one of the best ever.
Thank you. Thank you. We are so grateful to our participants. At the moment, we have 120 participants. Thank you so much. Those viewing us from Facebook, thank you. We are grateful. I would like to tell you that the materials will be made available to all our participants, and then we will also upload the video on our AfLIA YouTube channels. We are going to send a short questionnaire to all participants so that you will give us, let us know how AfLIA is doing, and then we will also help you better in the work. So please, when you receive the survey, kindly respond to us promptly so that we can also use it in measuring our success factors and the impact of the programs that we have been running so far. We are grateful. Thank you, Peko. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye-bye.
Same, bye.